Recently, I have gained an affinity for checking out mods that came out before Half-Life 2 but acted like they were like the unofficial fan sequel to Half-Life 1. Like Absolute Redemption, we saw Gordon working for G-Man, or in Invasion, we saw Gordon continuing his fight in Black Mesa against the HECU, the Zen Creatures, and the G-Man. But when I heard about the Timeline Trilogy, I had no idea. I had no idea what a great adventure this would be. The Timeline Trilogy came out in 2000, 2001, and 2002, and it was made by Ross Smith. While I'll be going through the trilogy and showing you the mods in full, I want to preface this video by saying that the Timeline Trilogy has got to have some of the most fun, good-looking, and entertaining maps I've ever seen in a Gold Source mod. It's also got to be one of the most ambitious mod with one hell of a scope, and I am seriously surprised to see this quality of mapping from a mod this old, and to top it off, it was only made by one person. Not all of it is sunshine and rainbows though, and I'll go into detail about that whenever those parts come up in the video. With all that said, let's take a look at the Timeline Trilogy. Timeline 1 starts off not with a bunch of exposition but with a block of text that I find very eerie. We head out of this room and see that we're outside one of Black Mesa's entrances, which eventually gets bombed. You might find the start of this a little boring, but bear with me, it only goes up from here. While this Black Mesa rendition isn't that much true to its original incarnation, I do find the texture work nice, as some of it contains unused textures that are still in the retail game. Next, I might have missed getting a weapon or something because I got ganked by a bunch of HECU soldiers, so I tried to make a run for it. Unfortunately, the soldiers kept increasing in numbers while I didn't have any weapons to defend myself. I will also share that in very rare instances I did have to turn on God mode as well, because honestly it was damn near impossible to clear places like these without cheating. Anyway, what I was supposed to do was that I was supposed to press a bunch of buttons in these rooms that would power up this teleportation machine at the end. Now the thing is, we didn't teleport from one place to another. No, we actually teleported to a different timeline. Get it? That's the name of the mod? Timeline? Different? Okay. So yeah, now that we're in an alternative universe, what do I find right around the corner? Goddamn Nazis! This caught me off guard, I'm not gonna lie. Entering in, we find ourselves face to face with assassins and a lot of boxes with the funny mustache man's army logo on it. Here's something you gotta understand about Timeline. These mods are big on interactability. You'll be pressing a lot of buttons, pulling a lot of levers, and so on. Doing stuff like this makes the world go forward and continue the story. Next, we find a door that's locked with a keycard, so obviously we need to find a keycard. Of course, this wasn't obvious to me at the time. Like I said about interacting with the world, the Timeline mods are also heavily dependent on using keycards in their maps. The bare minimum signposting in the mod might be off-putting to some players. While playing myself, I did get frustrated in a lot of places, but now that I'm reviewing the footage, I realize I could have just figured it out myself, and if I had just stopped and thought about what I'm doing, but yeah. We may be fighting HECU soldiers from the looks of it, but these are actually Nazis. This becomes more apparent in Timeline 2 as they are actually reskinned in that version. We come across this giant chamber with 3 buttons on it, and each of these lead to different points in time. I press the first button and head into the machine. I gotta commend Ross Smith's ability to map out giant chambers like these. As you watch this video, you'll notice a lot of giant rooms and halls and chasms with such great lighting in it. Anyway, the machine leads us to ancient Egypt. Underneath one of the pyramids, the Nazis have set up base, so of course it's our job to clear it out. The mythos and lore of this mod is that the Nazis have taken the time-traveling technology from Black Mesa and have started to spread throughout different universes and points in time. It's basically Gordon's job to undo all of that for some reason. It's such a wild story, like you're stopping the Nazis while also stopping the Zen infestation from spreading as well, all the while you're going through alternate worlds and timelines. Man, just look at this, it's so goddamn classic 90s, I love it. So after shooting down a bunch of Nazis and aliens, we find another teleporter that leads us back to the giant teleporter room we came from. I press the second button and head back in. Now we're in ancient Rome. in some arena fighting a bunch of aliens. Once again, the texture work and the maps make this look so fresh, but of course, once we go even deeper, we find this giant machine the Nazis are using to teleport around. You should get an idea of what the mod is by now. We're going back in time to places the Nazis have gone to, and we're erasing the disruption they've made in the space-time continuum, or something. Pressing a button makes the machine overheat and it explodes, so now we have to escape. Once again, this giant chamber is a mood. Back in the teleporter room, we have one last destination to go to, and that is the American Civil War. Like, I don't know what's scarier, seeing a Nazi flag in a Half-Life mod or seeing a Confederate one. After ransacking all the little houses, I went to the cannon and blew up one of them. As before, we head deep underground to find Nazis already there. Man, this is one of the strangest tag teams I've ever thought about. Nazis and Confederates versus Gordon Freeman. In terms of enemy variety in these encounters, the Timeline mods play it safe. In Timeline 1, you mostly fight the HECU or, the Nazi soldiers most of the game. And in Timeline 2, there's mostly warts, and in Timeline 3, it's a mix of the two. So underground, we again find one of these Nazis' time machines and we have to destroy it. And man, once we destroy it, I just found this lighting to be soothing, like it's chill here and I love it so much. We head back to see Nazis have invaded this place. This little room was locked before and now it opens up, and inside we find the keycard to open that door we saw way back in the beginning of the mod. While the trilogy does give you break rooms and lets you restock, I feel like the ratio of using ammunition to acquiring ammunition is way off. Like, you'll shoot more than what you'll restock, and that's one of the major issues with the trilogy. Anyway, we get on a train and it leads us to this even bigger underground base. Here, it's standard stuff of fighting the Nazis, while we have to stop them from loading a goddamn nuke onto this Vergeltungswaffen, or otherwise known as a V weapon. I think it's a V2 rocket. Unfortunately, as we head to stop it, we get ambushed and captured. The nuke is loaded onto the rocket, and it launches. Holy shit, I mean they blew up the Statue of Liberty, and half of New York along with it. What the fuck? We're in jail, but a mysterious entity saves us and vanishes. We break out and now we have to... Oh my fucking god, this is every Heart of Iron fan's wet dream. We take another tram to this loading bay, shoot a bunch of Nazis and carry on with our day. Now, I wasn't sure what I'd find next, since, they blew up New York, but Jesus Christ, I never expected the fucking White House with a swastika flag on it. We find a key card in the president's room, and that lets us open... Okay, I'm not really sure what it opened. But in the basement, we find this giant room that has like a timeline on the wall, and we came over from the original timeline to the Reich timeline. There's also the Roman timeline, the Confederate timeline, the Egyptian one, the Power Core, and the Zen ones. Lot of timelines. Judging from the red lines, these 4 have been destroyed by us, or the Nazis are no longer operating in those timelines, or I don't know, but this looks cool. We also see this report on Subject F, which is us by the way, and seems like the Reich is afraid of Gordon. Moving on, we see a portal room, and only the Zen portal is open here. There's not a whole lot to do in the Zen world, so we head into the Power Core timeline. The Power Core timeline houses this gigantic teleporter machine, and this scary ass monster keeps on teasing us, as if it's gonna step through the goddamn thing any second. Yeah, we gotta stop that from happening. This place here had such nice texture work done on it. Like, the map looked super sci-fi, and the textures, if I'm not wrong, a lot of them are from Half-Life 1, but they're like unused in the retail game, so it's nice seeing them pop up here like this. After fighting a bunch of Nazis, I pushed the power button, maybe overloaded it, and waited for the portal to blow up. Now here's one of the more difficult fights I had to fight. I was on 48 health, barely had any ammo for my SMG, and I was up against the assassins, which are like my one true weakness in Half-Life. I goddamn hate these assassins. With all that done, I reached the final teleporter room where I locked into 1944 and went back in time to World War II. This is such an ambitious mod, man, I love it. For a fan-made Half-Life 1 sequel, it's certainly batshit insane, but as a mod on its own, it's such a great experience. We end up in this gigantic place again, which I've said time and time again that Ross Smith does an amazing job at, and I will keep mentioning this fact throughout the video. Like, look at this, man. This finale was again one of the more difficult firefights throughout Timeline 1, but not impossible. Especially at this last part where the soldiers keep on infinitely respawning, so it's no use wasting your ammo. I hadn't realized this till I looked at a walkthrough, so my dumbass spent half an hour trying to kill all these soldiers before realizing I just have to make a run for it. On the far side of the walkway, we get a lot of rockets, and again, I wasn't sure until I watched a walkthrough that I realized I had to shoot the nuke in the distance, and that finishes the game. Honestly, it was a really strange way to end the mod, but I guess it works out. Right as the nuke goes off, someone teleports us out of there and we hear familiar voices around us.
Target acquired. Target acquired.
My goodness!
Gordon Freeman.
Get him out of there!
All the while, the other timeline that we were in has now been restored to its original state, so no more Nazi White House, and I guess New York's fine now. And that is where Timeline 1 ends. While Invasion and Redemption had somewhat of a possible what-if scenario that play out in them, like Gordon works for G-Man or continues his fight in Black Mesa, Timeline presents a scenario, a what-if scenario that is completely bonkers, and I love it for that exact reason. You got multiple universes, timelines, Nazis, New York, and the Statue of Liberty blowing up. I mean, there's just so much to this mod. Along with that, there is so much variety in how the maps look and feel, plus the addition of interacting with the world with buttons and keycards and vehicles further adds on to that experience. Now, with all that said, let's move on to Timeline 2 Iced Earth is the sequel, and it came out in 2001, a year after Timeline 1. It picks up right after where the first mod ends, where we arrive in this Black Mesa looking facility with the G-Man coming in to brief us about what's happening. There's a lot of text, so here's the TLDR. After Timeline 1, G-Man and the Black Mesa people got a hold of the time apparatus that the Nazis were using to jump back and forth between time. But during research, they found out about an alternate Earth where for the past 300 years, an ice age has swarmed over the planet. The Zen forces did invade this Earth as well, but since the people were ill-equipped, they could easily beat them, overtake them, and then launch an attack on the actual Earth, where we are right now. Oh, also, I love how G-Man tells us that the Gordon of the Ice Age Earth died during battle, and this is how he died. This is hilarious. So of course, we jump back into the portal and arrive on the Ice Age Earth. We're outside the Black Mesa facility of this planet, and yeah, I gotta say, I'm loving the icy cold texture work here. Really charming. Using a sewer tunnel, we head inside the facility to investigate. It's pretty standard stuff for the most part. There's some jumping, some tram riding, which is very neat. Now, this is the third thing Timeline focuses a lot on, vehicles. Apart from interactables and keycards, vehicles play a pivotal role in a lot of the maps in the Timeline Trilogy. We override the security so our tram can move forward and also look around for any resources like ammo or armor. Of course, we need an HEV suit as well. After clearing this area, I head back to the tram only to be blocked again by a crane. Now, we're gonna go on a long ass journey to move this thing out of the way. Of course, the power is out, so we need to head down and turn it on. I really liked the industrial looking textures here. It gave off this rusty feeling of a old ass machine that's been stopped for years, and also of like ill maintained places. Oh, and for like 80% of Timeline 2, warts are the only enemies we fight against. At one point it does become kind of irritating, but then other enemy types start showing up. Once again, man, props to Ross Smith for mapping out these big ass chambers and whatnot. We turn on the track power and head back to the tram to continue our odyssey. What follows is pretty standard and fun combat encounters with warts and grunts as we clear room by room. And I will say, even though a lot of the mapping is actually pretty well done compared to Half-Life standards, there are some places that are like basic looking hallways or rooms, and I mean they look alright, nothing to write home about. But then stuff like this pops up and I'm like, God bless Ross Smith for making this big ass structures. Here what we need to do is open up this gate and drive the snowmobile through it. To do that, we need to go through each floor of this citadel and I guess push buttons and whatnot to override the security and the power on the generators. I actually had a lot of fun here. Each of the floor had this compact feeling to it, and the vertical aspect of it all was done pretty nicely. From the windows you could see the mountains outside, and again it all added together for a pretty nice looking goal source map. There was this compact looking office space with this compact ass office rooms, and it was all so cute. Lastly, we turn on the power, so now it is time to head down to the snowmobile. Like I said earlier, the mod puts a lot of emphasis on having vehicles in the map, so it can have sections like these. I mean, you can't directly control the vehicles, but it's still pretty nice to get in one. Oh, we also passed by the place where Gordon of Ice Age Earth died. In fact, we can see his dead body here too, and man, this was surreal to look at. The whole multiverse time travel thing hit me hard here. Of course, I promptly took revenge for Ice Age Gordon, all the while opening up gates ahead of me. Heading into the launch control tower, I cleared out all the aliens, took a nice look at the view from the top, and head down into the tunnels. Took a quick dip in the water, which revealed a sewer for me to go through, and I came out to a science lab or something. I think we're still in Black Mesa, but I don't really care at this point. Of course, we see a locked room, so yeah, that's what we need to open up now. The launch control room had this map of the world, and goddamn, this is so funny, like there's only 3 major empires and no America. Okay, so this leads us on a journey to turn on the oxygen and the fuel pumps. Why, you may ask? Well, to launch a rocket into space, of course. But why launch a rocket into space? I have absolutely no idea. The oxygen and the fuel pump area looked cool though. Again, Ross had a pretty good grip on creating these industrial and rusty looking places. Now, I expected to launch a rocket into space. What I didn't expect was to me be in it, like holy shit, I wanna get out of this thing, let me out! Well, looks like I'm a rocket man now. Now I was completely lost story-wise. I didn't know why in the world we were in the outer space and what the station was even about. I guess this is Black Mesa's space station, but unfortunately it's been overrun by Zen creatures. We also get to fight another one of my most hated enemies from Half-Life. Alien controllers. This part reminded me a lot of the Alien movies and 2001: A Space Odyssey because of the textures and the maps. The Zen infestation was done pretty well texture-wise, and the bright textures in some of the rooms felt very retro-futuristic. We find a scientist captured here, so we save him from dying and get his help to launch the escape pod. And so, we finally escape. But my question still remains. What in the world were we even doing in outer space? Just killing aliens? We crash land back into Earth, and as the name of the chapter implies, we're in London now. And damn, the Ice Age pretty much ruined the place. We head underground to find ourselves in, well, the London Underground. Or as they say over there, the Tube. It's Tuesday, innit? Fighting through an underground parking lot, we come out of a bank or something, and finally the streets of London. It's exactly how it is in real life. Ross Smith did a pretty good job at recreating London City here. Even the skybox looks British as hell. Anyway, we head inside the Royal Society Imperial Research Establishment. To be honest, I didn't like this bit at all. I mean, the maps looked great, but the way they played out made me very confused. There's multiple paths and like so many places you can go to, but the solution is never like apparent, like a lot of the times I just had to consult a walkthrough because I couldn't figure out that I had to microwave this head crab to open the door. I mean, it's funny as shit, but if I hadn't just randomly pressed the microwave button, I would have never progressed further. But overall, this whole place just felt very cryptic gameplay wise. Like, for example, this whole section ends here. This door is supposed to be open, but it says security lockdown. And I swear to God, I didn't see any security overriding button or switch anywhere. Even in the walkthrough, I didn't notice anything that I missed during my playthrough, so of course, I no-clipped through it. Next, we meet up with some scientists and a guard, and since this mod has no custom dialogues, they all say stock dialogue from Half-Life 1, and half of it doesn't make any sense.
That should be very useful.
Any idea how many of our crew have died?
Why didn't they listen? We tried to warn them.
From there, we take a lift to go up, and well, I'll just let you see for yourself.
Depleted.
I had 10 bullets and 40 health. I'm not a pro gamer, man. I can't do this shit without cheating. Outside there's this little pod that if you walk into, explodes. Then I tried it again. It didn't work. Now again, here's where the mod becomes cryptic again. To solve this puzzle, you have to backtrack all the way to this door that was locked earlier. You get this scientist to follow you, and if the mod doesn't bug out like it did for me, he'll go in and the pod will explode. Godspeed, friend, your sacrifice will not go in vain. But if you try to understand what I'm saying, this was not a solution I could have figured out on my own. This was mostly left on chance. Once again, we see the beautiful London skies and walk through its streets. There's also the London Bridge and it looked glorious in Gold Source. Then I found a jeep and tried to jump over the bridge and well, I died in the first attempt. Second time around it was fine. On the other side of the river is the Tower of London and we go into it through the Trader's Gate. Honestly, I really like these recreations of real life places in the mod. It all looks so cute when it's low poly and in Gold Source. I'm betting Ross Smith is British cause there is no way an American would know there's a Trader's Gate under the Tower of London. In the courtyard, we get into a firefight with alien grunts. So basically, the aliens have this teleporter or something in the tower itself and we need to destroy it. Now what we have to do is that we have to assault the tower while killing the infinite spawning warts and controllers, all the while we destroy the Zen crystals. Now truth be told, I probably could have cleared this had I tried a little harder, but at this point I was mentally fatigued and just didn't care, so of course I turned on God mode. Now you'd think this would be the part where, after this big ass showdown the mod ends, but you're actually very wrong. We head back and through the tunnels reach this building which lets us into the London Underground again. Now watch this scenario. I have 8 health, barely any ammo, and there's infinitely spawning assassins ahead of me. Ugh. Basically we just need to head into this train and make a daring escape. Going through the icy European wasteland, we pass through Paris, France. We can even see a destroyed Eiffel Tower too. Damn. Then we stop at Geneva, Switzerland. The Geneva office section is pretty much similar to the previous section we went through in London. I'd say this is even more confusing than that. Like, you go through all of these rooms, shut off the power, and then, I don't know, all the doors are still locked at the entrance hub area. Now get this. What you have to do is that you go back to the train station area and see this completely blocked off pile of rubble? Well actually, you can break this one part of it and crawl through the vents. The only thing I hate about this is that there's no indication that a part of the ceiling can be broken, so it is entirely left to chance that the player will be able to figure this stuff out. Next comes more industrial and rusty looking underground areas. These parts are pretty fun and have been so far in my experience. Sure, they are large as hell, but they don't require a lot of thinking. You just need to run and shoot and that's pretty much it. The added bonus is that Ross Smith can craft amazing looking large chasms and halls. What follows is a simple trek to enable the tracks so we can cross the bridge. I did like this part where we have to do a leap of faith and hang on to a ladder. After that we have to shimmy along this ledge where it has us bouncing around like a pinball. Then we assault a research facility that's been taken over by aliens. We also get to meet the Nazi soldiers again. This time around, they aren't the default HECU models. They're reskinned and even have the funny plus symbol on their shoulder as well. Then we see this teleport machine room for which we have to turn the power on. Now, I may sound like a schizophrenic, but there's something about these tunnels that is oddly nostalgic and calm, like the textures, the lighting, and how the green light shows up when we power on a generator. All of it just seems so cozy, doesn't it? Comment you're not a schizo rad, I feel it too, down below if you relate with me on this feeling. Afterwards, we power on the teleporter and jump into parts unknown. Well, put me in a dress and call me Sally. We're in Zen, and looks like the Nazis are here too. God bless Ross Smith for having the ability to create such charming and well-textured maps. I swear this Zen map was also very fun to go through. It was wide, open, and to my surprise, linear as well. First, I had a standoff against the Nazis in this gigantic chamber. Later on, I head downstairs to see this control panel and turned on the power. Now the problem here was that even though the maps were linear or they weren't confusing to navigate, I still feel like there was no progress being made. I mean, I kept shooting the Nazis and discovered new areas, but at the end, I just ended up at this teleport machine and that's it. Nothing happened after this. So of course I had to consult the walkthrough again. Now, this is insane. You need a keycard to progress, right? I didn't find a keycard. Wanna take a wild guess where we can find the keycard? Under this lift. Alright, I knew this was too good to be true. I don't understand hiding an essential item like this under a lift of all places. A lift that seems like it's the only way you could go forward. Anyway, I took the keycard and went back to the teleportation device and got ganked by a bunch of Nazis. Then I opened up a portal and went back to Switzerland. Now we head for Castle Wolfenberg and end this journey. This part gave me very heavy classic World War II movies vibes. You know, like the movies that inspired it to make Wolfenstein? One of my personal favorites from that era is Where Eagles Dare, and that's exactly what this whole section reminded me of. The Alps, snow, Nazis, and a big-ass castle. God bless Ross Smith for his remarkable mapping skills. I love this scene. Of course, going straight results in the bridge getting pulled up, so now we have to find a different route. This leads us to another ping-pong session along a very slippery ledge. We successfully infiltrate the castle and prepare to break hell loose. Killing Nazi after Nazi, we end up in this giant chamber that houses this ice monster that the Nazis have been using to conquer all the different timelines and alternate worlds. Of course, by this point, I was at 2 health, so there was no way in hell I was gonna clear this, especially since the wards kept infinitely respawning. Stop laughing, God mode doesn't make me any less of a gamer than anyone else. We release the monster and of course it starts beating the shit out of everyone in the room. I think I damaged it a bit too much because what was supposed to happen was that it was supposed to fall into this abyss beneath us, but I actually killed it and broke the scripted sequence. Anyway, the death of the scary ice monster initiates the destruction of Castle Wolfenberg, and so we make our daring escape once again. In this airplane, of course. Man, this is so cool, I wish airplanes were real. Of course, midway through our escape, a green Nazi fighter jet intercepts us. This is literally like Top Gun or something. Then we reach this Swiss building where we have to clear it out and head towards the sled. You heard me, a sled. This was the moment where this mod became one of my all-time favorites. This has heavy Mario 64 vibes, by the way, and that jet is still after us, but the idiot flies straight into a wall. Anyway, with all that said and done, we reach our exfil point where the G-Man is waiting for us, and that's Timeline 2 Iced Earth. Timeline 2 feels like a natural advancement over Timeline 1. The maps are more diversified, the story is even more grand, and it all boils up to be this great adventure through many different locales like London, Switzerland, underground bases, tunnels, science facilities, and of course my favorite, the icy wasteland. Granted, this step to push the boundary resulted in some parts of the mod feeling a little bit too difficult or sometimes too confusing to figure out, but overall, Timeline 2 was a great experience. And now for the finale, we go to Timeline 3 was released in 2002 and it starts off with a training course actually. Yeah, the previous two didn't have a proper hazard course, but this one does. So I thought, let's check it out first. Basically, it tells us what I said in the beginning of this video. It tells the player that we have to look for things in the environment that they can use to progress further, like here, we need to find a battery to power on the laser, or like look for key cards, or look out for vehicles and whatnot. It's a nice way to tell the player how the mod uses these new elements in the gameplay department. This actually helped me understand the game design philosophy of this mod, and it kinda helped me in certain sections. And that's pretty much it for the hazard course. So now, the actual story. Timeline 3 picks up immediately after Timeline 2, where we boarded the little pod with G-Man in it. Apparently we're moving through space, but then the alarms ring and oh no, it's space Nazis! The Nazi ship swallows our pod and well, now we're in jail. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Gold Source Hitler! Holy shit, look at him! He even has a briefcase with a little swastika on it. Jesus Christ! Unfortunately, that's the first and last time we'll see Gold Source Hitler, as he doesn't appear again in the whole mod. So the Barney that was traveling with us apparently breaks out and opens up our jail cell as well. One thing I immediately noticed in Timeline 3 was how the mapping and the brushwork improved. Ross Smith, who already made pretty good maps for the first two installments, really upped his mapping skills for Timeline 3. Truth be told, at some points it doesn't even look like a mod from 2002. Feels much more modern, like it's from the early 2010s. We step outside and yeah, oh yeah, this is a mood. Blood red sky, dark lighting, oh yeah. It's dark and gritty for sure. The rusty texture work adds on to this feeling as we run across the rooftop and get inside this other building. The combat encounter was a little difficult since, 17 bullets. We head down to the street level to further take in the atmosphere and turn around the corner to find like a dozen or so Nazi soldiers waiting for us. After killing the ones outside the fence, I didn't know how to get to the other side. That's when, in another street, I discovered the Jeep and well... I love how Gordon crashes through a fence, turns around and crashes through the other one as well, like a double middle finger. Here we find a key card which we'll need. Now, there's this thing Timeline 3 does specifically. When a door needs a key card, there'll be this little light next to it. I had seen this earlier when I started my journey, so I knew that if I found a key card down the line, here is where I need to use it, and honestly, this is such a great way to do signposting. Up next, we fight a bunch of soldiers and enter this room here. Again, we see this flashing light, which means we need another keycard to operate the console. Outside that room is an elevator that takes us to a lower level. Here, I really liked the texture work and whatever this thing was supposed to be. It really looked quite menacing. We take another lift to go down even further, and man, the maps here look so good. It's not quite Half-Life looking, but on its own merit, it looks really well done. Next, we come to a giant chasm that houses this giant spaceship that swallowed our space pod. To be honest, I was kinda lost at this point. I had gone through all these different places and not once did I find the keycard anywhere. Then I noticed I could actually go inside this giant metal blimp, and that was quite poggers. Room by room, I cleared out the blimp, and at the end, there it was, the keycard. Also, something is very off about this image right here. I don't know how to put it into words. That keycard opens the door at the opposite side of this gigantic place, which leads us to the primary temporal accelerator room. Try saying that 3 times. At this point, I don't even have to say it. Gigantic atmospheric chamber, Ross Smith, God bless. Those infinite spawning portals open up which keep spewing out soldiers, so I just made a mad dash to whatever I was supposed to do down here, which in this case was pressing these buttons. What that does is that it activates the escape pods. We get into one of those and make a daring escape once more. However, this time around, we arrive at a very mysterious place. Super futuristic looking. Empty. Devoid of any life. And man, what a view. Wait, what? Yeah, okay, whatever. I need to appreciate this view first. It reminds me of that one mission from Halo Reach. Anyway, entering the portal, we come out at this abstract place with strange structures seemingly suspended in the vast emptiness of outer space. And then, blocks of text. TLDR time. The entity or entities that are talking to us are the monitors. Basically, they are like artificial intelligences created by the UN in the 22nd century, and they look after timelines and alternate universes and time travel and so on. They are worried that the funny mustache man is getting too powerful with his time travel shenanigans, and he might destroy the fabric of reality unless we, Gordon Freeman, stop him. There are 4 possible points in time where the Nazis have some temporal stabilizer systems, and we need to go into each of them to destroy them. The stakes, ladies and gentlemen, have been raised. The monitors give us resources and weapons, and now we jump into each of the portal one by one. The first one leads us to this desolate, snowy wasteland planet, and we're like in the year 20 billion. Really cool setting, man. I love this so much. We enter the alien-looking citadel and go up to find our old friends, the Warts. Here we destroy the energy crystals, then go up one more floor and... assassins? Well, I guess the Nazis also made it to this place. We destroy the remaining crystals and the whole place shuts down. Work here is done, let's go back. The next place we go to is in the year 5 billion, and Jesus Christ, the skybox slaps so hard here. But apart from that, there's nothing much else to do on this lava-filled rocky world, but we'll be coming back here. Just you wait. The next portal leads us to Australia in the year 2019. Geez, COVID didn't hit this place yet and it already looked like hell. If you're an Aussie, comment down below how similar this recreation looks to the actual Sydney, Australia. Of course, we also find our enemies here, the Nazis. I like how the Nazis literally have the power to time travel, yet they're still using blimps. Anyway, we hijack it and go to a Nazi encampment in... I don't know, I guess we're in the outskirts of Melbourne now. This is Bartertown. I like how this is like a nod that once this place was occupied by traders of the wasteland and whatnot. Little bit of a backstory to the maps. The gunfight here was pretty challenging, but in a very enjoyable way, especially due to its setting and layout. After the fight in Bartertown, we go deep into the underground and of course find a bunch of Nazis there as well, and they have Chinese soup in one of the containers. From there we head inside a small pipe and come out to a garage. Here we find a truck, we fuel it up, and baby, now we're full on Mad Maxing this shit. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Attempt number 2, let's go. Oh, this is gonna be so good. This is gonna be absolutely... Oh. I was supposed to jump out. Oh yeah, baby, now that's what I'm talking about. Tell me one other mod where you can drive a truck full of gas into a Nazi base. In here we find a temporal accelerator that we need to destroy. After fighting with a bunch of soldiers, we head into the control center, shut off the security, and blow up this thing into pieces. That gives us access to a pipe down below that we can use to get back to the place where we started from? Wait, I'm confused. Why did we take the blimp earlier if this place was like right next door? Yeah, I don't know, let's head back. The next place we visit is London in 1899. Here we see a bunch of aliens at war with a bunch of Nazis. This whole chapter gave me heavy Thief vibes. Remember Thief, the stealth game? I loved Thief's atmosphere and a lot of it can be felt here as well. After clearing out some streets and killing the enemies, I got to this apartment building which was actually Herbert George Wells's house. Very neat. And the house next to his is Arthur Conan Doyle's. Very nice Easter egg. Inside the house, we find that the Nazis have set up a secret lab. I wasn't able to destroy whatever this thing was, but I did destroy the battery thing next to it. Then I got into this little pod and pressed a button and well... Whoa, okay. This has got to be the most pog moment in this whole trilogy. It's like showing us the passage of time and things around us changing and like, geez, this is super cool to pull off in an engine like Gold Source. And now we're in Thames Valley in the year 800,000. Goddamn, what even is this place? Are we gonna devolve back into how things were like in ancient Egypt? After taking a small dunk in the pool, I head inside. The mix of futuristic and ancient textures is such a nice combo, makes for this abstract idea of the distant far future of Earth and humanity. In the backyard, we find a large hall that has a bunch of things on display. At the very end, I found 2 metal rods. I grabbed them for some reason and this happened. I died in the Chinese soup. Anyway, heading down, we delve deep into the underground area, and I think this is the temporal transportator thing or whatever that we have to destroy. So we do something with the switches and turn it off. Oh, and this was something. Next we find a tram, and of course what follows is a pretty enjoyable short and sweet section. Again, like I've said many times now, the texture work in this mod is a masterclass at choosing the right color palette, the style, and the way it's all laid out. It's such a moody and atmospheric way to do it. This all leads us back to the place where we arrived. The pod is inside the statue for some reason, and we get ambushed by the aliens. And I think we used those 2 metal rods to power our little pod to make it work again, since it, exploded the first time around. And oh, would you look at that? The lava world where we stopped by in the beginning. The lava world was pretty fun, especially because of its visuals. The red tones, the exploding sun in the sky and all that. Really good stuff. There were some parts in it that I just enjoyed for what they were. The combat encounters were also pretty alright, nothing too difficult. And would you know it, the Nazis are also camped here as well. The temporal machine is inside a giant cave in this world above lava, and I gotta say that's a pretty stupid place to put it in. I pressed a button and the thing exploded, but then this happened. I died in the soup again, then I died again because of stupidity. 3rd time's the charm. I pressed the button and made a mad dash back to the entrance and made it just in time. Now our pod's broken and we need to get to that portal to get back in time. Here's what you gotta do. Send the lift down, then bring it back up, but get on its roof. Then, like a proper circus professional, go across the rope and head into the portal. Bada bing bada boom, fabric of reality saved, but not really. You see, my game glitched out here. A sequence was supposed to happen, but it didn't. I went back to each of the worlds, seeing if I had done everything, and apparently I had. But somehow, when I walked into this room, the sequence that was supposed to play, it played out. Nazis invade the Monitor's space station. Those bastards! But the sequence was also supposed to show dialogue from the Monitors. The Monitors go something like, "Oh no, Nazis are here. There's only one thing left to do to save everything. Gordon, go back to the day the resonance cascade happened and stop it from happening so none of this happens." And then we get teleported back to Black Mesa. And so we now arrive at a very familiar place. This takes place 3 hours before the resonance cascade happened, so it's early in the morning, no one's around. A lot of this Black Mesa section is just walking around, and it's honestly such a nice touch. After all that we've been through, this is a fantastic ending sequence. We take a breather and go through an alternate route to find the Zen crystal and make it disappear. By doing that, we'll be able to stop the incident from ever happening, stop time traveling from being invented, and of course, stop Goal Source Hitler. It's oddly quiet all around. We get to see so many of the places we see in the starting tram sequence of Half-Life 1. But somehow, the Nazis knew of our plan and they've arrived here before we could. They send all their forces against us, but they're no match for the one free man. I take out the gluon gun and shatter the Zen crystal into a million pieces. G-Man vanishes for some reason, and that is Timeline 3. Everything that ever happened during the trilogy, all erased from history. The Black Mesa incident never happened. All that ever happened was that the Zen crystal disappeared and a scientist named Gordon was late to work. Damn, this was so good. Timeline 3 is the best out of the whole trilogy, no doubt about it. It takes the ever-expanding narrative of the previous installments and upgrades it by making the adventure feel even more grand. Like this time around, it's just not 1, 2, or 3 new places, but many new places across huge leaps of time, and honestly, experiencing all of this made me a bit emotional, disregarding everything in the mods. But if the next official Half-Life game ends like how Timeline 3 did, it'll be such a nice send-off. Everything erased and nothing went wrong. But back to the mod itself, including the first two. It's hard to believe that such an ambitious mod was created all the way back in the early 2000s. Mind you, this was just a few years after Half-Life 1 came out and 2 to 4 years before Half-Life 2 came out. It's strange why not a whole lot of people mention this mod in conversation, as I think it deserves to be in a Hall of Fame with other classic Half-Life mods. The mapping, the textures, the overall mood, it was all fantastic. Granted, most of the negatives I shared mostly happened because of my own faulty skills. The only negative I've objectively give about this mod is that in rare cases, it does confuses the player and a walkthrough consultation is inevitable. But apart from all that, everything was great and I loved it. And that's pretty much it for this one. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching and a big thanks to these benefactors for supporting the channel. Dream Vikings, Marinoa, Alexi, Nose98, Unusual, Taylor, The One Epic Player, Maddie160p, Joseph Stalin, Raccoon Eggs, 404 Not Found, Potato King, Corby, Nita, DeadX, Evox, Flaming Oddball, Paris 1911, The Geeler, ATSF GP30, Hawk, A Normal Street Lamp, Mr. Spaban, Geout, Nobody Important, T.S. Tromer, Scary Stalker, It's Juro, Scooms, Aoi, Imperial Embers, T-Boy301, Jack5282, Lucky You, Quiltman, 501st Clone Boy, TTG, Robocop, Noel, Tedosaur, Lambdre, Roadkill, Walter, Fisher Grice, Hawk Assault, Jelen, TRR Droid, and Bipullet. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Gold Source Hitler!